Hey there, this is Joakim with the Systems Alliance, and in this video we're going to go over the news that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 just made Activision, over its first 3 days launch, over $500 million. And that was a disappointment, so their stock dropped 9%. So as you may know by this point, Red Dead Redemption 2 just set a record for an open weekend with $725 million, the all-time 3-day record for any entertainment launch in entertainment history is $1 billion with, once again, Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 5. So you would think $500 million for a Call of Duty game that took out its single-player mode that pissed off a lot of the fans. A lot of people weren't going to be getting the game. Half its player base seemed to be single-player only. You would think $500 million, especially when it probably cost them less to make the game, since all they were doing was adding in a Battle Royale mode but taking out the more expensive to make single-player game. You would think that investors would be happy about that. Rather, you would think they would understand what was about to happen with their sales. So investors were disappointed and Activision stock dropped 9% because they only made $500 million with the launch. And of course they assumed a $60 price tag for the game, so they estimate 8.3 million copies sold. But when you think about it, they had so many special and ultimate and whatever editions for the game at $100 to $200. That number might be a little lower. Maybe there was a few sales out there, but generally when a game first launches, especially a big game like this, the discounts are very minimal. So even though most of that money came from the game sales and not from, any microtransactions or loot boxes or anything like that, 8.3 million units sold might be a little high. They were probably somewhere between the $6 and $7 million range, given the other units cost $100 to $200. But I guess analysts were predicting 10 million units sold over its first 3 days and a potential 5 million more throughout the rest of the quarter. And I get it. Call of Duty has been a huge moneymaker for Activision, and its sales figures have pretty much all been higher than this. This might be the lowest grossing out of any of them, but at the same time, you have a franchise that is stale. I mean, sure, you're putting in Battle Royale mode, and a lot of people like it, but overall, the user scores for the game aren't that great. I mean, Metacritic-wise, the great games are always in the 90s, mid-90s, somewhere like that. This game is floundering somewhere in the mid-80s, which isn't bad for critics, but it's usually somewhere in the 3s and 4s for user score. So obviously gamers aren't really liking this game so much. And it's always recently been more of a casual type of game anyway, ever since the end of Modern Warfare 2 for the audience, and they're probably not reviewing it on Metacritic or any other site. But at the same time, they did lose out on a lot of people buying the game by not having a single-player campaign. So if I were an investor, I would not have been expecting 10 million units sold. Maybe I would have been expecting 6 or 7 million units sold, which it seems to have actually done. And now the investors are acknowledging that the time frame in which Black Ops 4 was launched was a pretty difficult one. I mean, Red Dead Redemption was right around the corner. They had other competition. But you would also think they would understand that Red Dead would be that big. I mean, most people knew it would be. It was crushing on the pre-order sales. Investors actually acknowledged that, hey, we're actually glad it sold at least 500 million because we were afraid it would do even worse given the pre-order numbers. Obviously, what that means is that Call of Duty has done pretty well on digital, but overall, it seems like maybe not a new low for the entire franchise, of course. But since they've been cranking out hit after hit after hit, it's definitely their worst selling game, if you could even call a game that sells this many units and makes $500 million a game that has sold poorly. But in terms of Call of Duty, it is their worst selling game in a while. Now, of course, what does this mean? Well, they're probably going to step up the microtransactions. They're probably going to step up the loot boxes. Probably going to implement all of that, throw it into the Battle Royale mode. You can expect all of that because, of course, now they need their stock to go back up. And this is unfortunate, but when you have a large gaming company like this that relies so heavily on one game, you have Blizzard's arm that can survive on games like Warcraft and StarCraft and Diablo. And of course, let's not forget Overwatch. But on the other side, you have Activision, and they're mainly surviving on the Call of Duty franchise. So unlike EA, who publishes so many games, just has such a vast reach everywhere and owns so many developers, Activision Blizzard, despite having a great market value and being very profitable, doesn't own nearly as many. Their games just tend to be bigger hits. So when one doesn't hit like it's supposed to, it looks like maybe they were hoping for 600 million plus over the 3-day launch period, which I don't know, it's not happening, guys. I mean, you didn't make a game that a lot of people wanted. There was a lot of bad press out there about it. The loot boxes, the scamming people into situations where they couldn't get the full game if they only paid the $60 version. There was no way to upgrade. I mean, definitely not consumer friendly. And if you couldn't tell by this stage in the game how that can hurt you, how it's hurt EA with Star Wars Battlefront 2, I'm not really sure what to tell you. But let me know your thoughts on this. Have you played Call of Duty Black Ops 4? Do you like it? Is the game working for you? Do you think $500 million is a disappointment? I sure don't, and I think it's pretty good considering what you actually got in the game, but for some reason investors were hoping for more. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe, share, and we'll catch you later.